everyone, and welcome to the Birth Boot Camp podcast. I'm Holly Hopley, the CEO.
I'm Liana Wolf, the administrator.
And I'm Megan Busk, the head of marketing.
And today we're excited because we kind of put Megan in the hot seat today so that we can get to know her some more. We got to know Liana last week as our new admin. And so if you missed that, definitely go check that out. But we're just going to jump right in and get to know Megan a little bit better, which I'm excited about, especially because you live super close to me. So
no, it's so nice.
It's super fun. Will you just start by introducing yourself? Maybe tell us like where you're from, about your family, your kids, and then we have to know your birth stories, at least like a very quick version of them.
Okay, perfect. So I grew up in a small town, Richfield, Utah, and my husband and I have moved all over. And right now we are living in Santaquin in Utah, and we love it. It's been really great so far. We've been here about a year. We have 3 girls, 7. How old is she? 5 and 2. And they are just hilarious, as all kids are. I'm trying to remember all the questions. So my birth story with each of them is so completely different. I feel like as every birth is different. But my oldest, I was fortunate enough to have an amazing midwife and a wonderful doula. And I just had a really great support team. And it was my favorite birth by far. And it was in a hospital, and I delivered unmedicated, and it was almost like, it was like that magical birth that just everything went well. It was just easy. I mean, it wasn't easy. It's a birth, it's labor, but it just
like pretty smooth.
Yeah, exactly. Everything went pretty smooth. And I left that, that's kind of when I knew I wanted to be in birth work, because I had such a great experience and I loved learning about it throughout that whole process. And just everything about it was so fabulous. So from that time, it kind of spurred this interest in me. I didn't end up going down that road for quite a while. But my next baby, I had her unmedicated in a hospital as well. And she was a little bit trickier. She was I don't know what made the biggest difference, but I was kind of stuck at a 6 centimeters for a while. And I remember my mom and my sister were there, and they went out into the hallway, and apparently they were chatting oh, I feel so bad for her. She's not progressing, not in front of me, but, and then they, between that time when they left the room and came back, I almost had the baby. So I went from a 6 to a 10, and the baby was out of my body in about 5 minutes. It was really crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And my midwife and all the nurses were kind of in that panic mode, because it just happened so fast. And one of the things that I think made a big difference is that my midwife was this position is not helping. Let's try this and see what happens. And it just took off.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, because that's what, as a birth doula, that's one of my jobs, is to kind of help people okay, well, this isn't working. Let's try this. And just to see how fast birth can progress. And so with my 3rd baby, it was past 41 weeks, and I was really not mentally, I don't think I was ready to bring another baby into our home. And so I think there was a mental block between my brain and my uterus, and they did not want to cooperate. So she just was sticking in there, and my midwife group was really pushing me to be induced. And at the time, I just I didn't really know, I just didn't know. And so but it gave me a lot of anxiety. So I was planned to be induced, and the hospital was supposed to call me and let me know when I could come in, and they never called. Okay, they're going to call at 2. They never called. They're going to call at 6. They never called. So it stressed me out even more, because I'm how this is so not scheduled, it's not prepared. And it's because I wasn't quite at that 41 weeks yet. And so they weren't putting me on the
Yeah.
go list basically. So the next
Yep.
day, my midwife called me. She's like, I heard you're just like not like interested in this. I'm like, I really am not. But she had me come in and we talked about it a little bit. And I ended up being scheduled for 6 a.m. to go in and be induced the next morning. And we went in and got Pitocin and all the things. And it was a wild ride. Pitocin definitely does a lot more, in fact, in terms of making your contractions a lot more intense. So I ended up having an unmedicated birth with her as well, but it was a lot more intense than my others. And it was like, I kind of lost my focus with that one just because of the intensity level. And same position. I told my husband, I'm like, I'm going to get in that position again and see like if we can just get this baby out. Yep. And I had her on my knees. So
Wow.
that's my third, and right now my husband's hoping final, but we'll see how that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Pitocin is no joke. That's
Yeah.
amazing though. So you briefly went into how you got into birth work after your first, but how long have you been doing it? What's your favorite part? And tell us about some of your challenges you face. And what about the birth climate where you live? What is that like?
Yeah. So I just briefly going back over, like I fell in love with birth work during my first labor and delivery. And then it wasn't until 2021, my friend was pregnant and expecting and having a baby. And she asked me if I could be her doula. And I was like, well, I mean, cause she knew I had been talking about it for years. And so she's like, well, would you be interested in doing that for me? And I was like, actually, yes, I would love to do that. So it kind of spurred me into actually taking the birth boot camp course and being prepared to be her support at her birth. So that's kind of when I set things in motion, and I ended up taking my course in December of 2021. So I haven't been in birth work as a certified doula for very long, but I've loved it so far. I feel like my favorite part about it, I just attended a birth this week, and just, I don't know, just seeing like the power that women have, no matter what their birth ends up being like, they're powerful in their own way. And it's just incredible to see that. And then after the baby has arrived and just seeing the mom's expression on her face, it's like priceless. So I love that. And let's see, some of the challenges, probably my biggest challenge in birth work is how unexpected it is. And just being able to be on call and like go whenever. Like for this particular birth, I wasn't even on call yet because she went quite a bit early than she was supposed to. So she like texted me and was like, okay, I think I'm like, I think my contractions are not Braxton Hicks anymore. And I'm like, you still have 3 weeks to go. Like we're not quite to that point yet, but then things happen really fast. And so everything's just, you just never know with birth work. It's really unexpected. And the culture where I live in Utah, I feel like everywhere it's progressing. We're seeing a lot more midwives, or we're seeing a lot more doulas. And I feel like Utah has a lot of babies being born and a lot of births. But there's still a lot of like almost like a knowledge barrier. Like people just don't know what's available to them. And especially when it comes to doulas, I have people ask me all the time when I tell them I'm a doula, they say, well, how is that different than a midwife? What's a midwife and what do you do? And so I give them an example and I tell them a little bit more about what doulas do. And I see that and realize, okay, like there's a lot of information that needs to be out there more about what the options are for women and what support they can have for their birth. So that's kind of where I see the culture in Utah a little bit. I mean, Holly, you live here too, so.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. Yeah, it's like I feel like it's like we've come a long way, but at the same time, we still have so much more work to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Did I answer all your questions, Liana?
You sure did.
Okay. Like trying to remember them all in my mind as I go through.
Yep. So tell us what you love about being a part of birth boot camp.
I love birth boot camp. I fell in love with it when I did my course, and I just love the culture, and I love that it's more than just, I think I talked about this last week, but it's more than just a technique. It's knowledge, and helps women to know what their options are, and when things maybe aren't going the way that you want in your birth or the way that you planned, like, you know what can happen from that point on, and you can be ready for that. So I love that about birth boot camp, and I'm excited to be a part of that. My cute little mom I was just with, she had a lot of questions, and there was a lot of things where I feel like a lot of women come across the same unknown and things that they're just don't know anything about. And I think birth boot camp just answers all of those for us.
Awesome. I totally agree. So can you tell us about what your role on the headquarters team is, and kind of what you're excited about as far as being on headquarters?
Yeah, I actually really wanted to be on headquarters when I took my course. And I just saw it as an awesome opportunity to be able to work with so many amazing women and be in birth work. And so that's been my goal for a while. And I'm glad that it has kind of come into my lap a little bit. I was able to see that there was a job available. So I'm grateful for that. And I am excited to be the head of marketing. So with that, there's a lot of information and a lot of things that I'm learning, and excited to put forth for birth boot camp and for our headquarters team, and just see the growth that's happening.
Yeah, you kind of have a lot on your plate. You have been learning.
I keep telling my husband, I'm like, I feel like I'm drinking out of a fire hose.
Yeah. I feel like we're getting there.
Yeah.
I feel like we're kind of getting to that point where we'll catch our stride and start moving. Yeah, no, we're super excited to have you, especially when we saw, the background that you have in marketing for other businesses and things like that. We knew we had to have you. So
Well,
we're excited. And with that, with everything that you now have on your plate and all that kind of stuff, do you have any, sorry, I'm kind of stealing your question, Liana, but do you have any like tips? Or everybody always asks us, how do we do it? How do we work on headquarters and have our own clients? And we're also, we all have families that we're raising and things like that. So do you have any words of advice?
Words of advice. I have been working for like the majority of my time as a mother. And one thing that I have to do for my sanity and for my kids is to get out of the house at least once a day. So if I'm working a lot, I'm like, let's go. We got to go to the park, or the splash pad, whatever we need to do. We're going to get out of the house, spend some quality time together, and like reconnect. And that has been like the number one thing that has been helping me over the years as a working mom, and probably my biggest tip of advice. And it helps everyone's mental stability.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you should see the dishes that are piling up, but yeah.
You know what? But your kids will remember the time outside. They're not going to remember the dishes.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think I think that's a really great tip. We've been trying to do that. I'm not always as good at it every day, but we try to get outside. My question is, what do you do during the winter?
Mike, we got so much unbelievable snow this year, just mind-blowing.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and where we live, we're right next to the mountains, so I feel like we're like in the foothills of the mountains. I feel like we just have so much extra. So like that was our time. We just went outside and played in the snow, and like that was something that we did. Otherwise, we would go to the library or, go do indoor activities. I love having, I'll be honest, like a McDonald's nearby that has a playground, because you can just go and buy everyone I don't even know how much they cost, a little ice cream cone, and let them just run wild, which is nice in the winter.
Yep. Yeah. That's what I need to come up with is like things like that to do during the winter. So I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, we come across the same thing in Colorado. Not as much snow as Utah, but we get our fair share for sure. So this is just about you. What do you do for fun? What are your hobbies? And like, are there any fun facts about you that we should know or that we should let our listeners know?
That's a good question. I really enjoy listening to audiobooks. I've probably listened to like 3 or 4 this week. I don't even know. Some I can just like speed through, like in my commutes or whatever. We kind of live in the middle. I feel like we live in the middle of nowhere. We're really not that far away, but I still have to commute to get groceries and things like that. So we're driving quite a lot. So I love to listen to audiobooks. I really love playing volleyball. That is something I do like once or twice a week if I can. So that's been really fun. I just started doing that a few years ago and it's been really fun. And I do league play and stuff like that. So yeah, that's been good. And then I just love to be outdoors. Like I told you, we live close to the mountain. So it's nice because we can actually be in the canyon in like 2 minutes. So we're just really close and it's nice to just be next to nature. And yeah, I love all of that.
Awesome. That's fun. What kind of books do you like to read or listen to?
Oh, that's a good question. So the ones that I've listened to this last week or so have all been like murder mysteries, but my typical go-to is usually like fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Or like young adult fiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're safe. I don't have to really usually worry about like anything crazy in them. So I like that I can just pick it up and know there's not going to be anything that's too risque.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. I know I haven't been reading as much the past few weeks, but I read last night. That's my problem is I start reading at night and then I stay up way too late.
Yeah.
So that's what I did last night.
I think that's why I haven't been reading the last couple of weeks because I've been staying up too late and I need to
Yep.
sleep.
Yep.
Don't start a new book for a while.
Yeah, I have a stack probably, I don't know, 10 high that's just waiting for me. So
that's awesome. I have a hard time reading like physical copies of books because I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's harder for us to just sit and like read.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read a book or like listen to a book for years and years because of that. And so when I found audiobooks, I was like, this is great. I can actually like participate. And
yeah, I always listen to them in the morning, like when I'm getting dressed and, running my straightener through my hair or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, yep. Awesome. Well, this was super fun. It's good to get to know you a little bit more.
Thanks.
So, both Liana and Megan now are going to be on the podcast every week. One of them probably will be. So it'll be super fun. It's been a good couple of weeks of just kind of catching them up to speed and getting a new team up and running. So it'll be awesome. We're excited. So
yeah, I'm excited too.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. If you have any questions you're dying to ask Megan, let us know. And I'm sure we can answer them. But be sure to subscribe and we will talk to you guys next week.